We're going to call the regular meeting of February 28th, 2022 to order. Do we have anybody registered for open mic?
We do not have anyone registered for the open mic.
Anyone online that would like to speak during our open mic? Looking for an adoption of the agenda. We have one agenda item to add. It's internal borrowing. And just for clarification, item 8, public hearings will take place at 1 p.m. today. So if we happen to be in budget deliberations, we will move away from that and get back into the public hearing. Anything else? Councillor Blatz.
I have two notice of motions for March 14th, one for Hope Mission and one for the Rural Transit Fund.
The internal borrowing will be (16C). We have a regular agenda item on there for notice of motions. Notice motions will be 17 and adjournment will be 18. Anything else? Ready for the question? Oh, got somebody to move it. Ready for the question? Who's in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 5, approval of the minutes.
I move that City Council approve the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting, February 14th, 2022.
Moved by Councillor Lonsdale. Any errors or omissions? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
Oh, there you go.
Five B, regular council meeting minutes.
I move that City Council approve the minutes of the regular council meeting, February 14th, 2022.
Moved by Councillor Lonsdale. Any errors or omissions? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Councillor Elliott. Sorry. Oh, is it? Technology making our lives so much easier. Okay. Carried unanimously. Popping up on my screen. Item 7, consent agenda. Looking for a motion.
I move that city council approves the consent agenda.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. You can start us off with your highlights.
Thank you. In addition to regular council and special council meetings, I attended the public budgetary consultations, excuse me, as well as openings for, well, the opening for Sage Beauty, and Mayor Gandam and I attended the volunteer awards at Seasons, was that last week? Which was a lot of great fun, just spending that hour hanging out with our seniors. I also took my assessment review board training, and I'm very proud to say that I passed. And I was scared that I failed because all the lettering was in red, but I actually did well. And last but not least, I just started taking the municipal financing course. So I'm learning lots just in time for budget. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Everly.
Sorry. Nothing to report. My events are there. Happy to be here.
All right. So, yeah, I went to the budget consultations in January. I went to the first one, not the second one, but yeah. And then I also have been, I started an FCM climate leadership course. And so I'm doing that every Thursday until the end of March. And so far it's been very insightful and really, really good to try and figure out what kind of role municipal governments play in climate action. Additionally, I met with Project Forest on Thursday and took them for a tour of Wetaskiwin and just wanted to talk about where we would like to see where their vision is for our city and what their hopes are, and just wanted to give them a tour of what Wetaskiwin looks like. It was their first time seeing Wetaskiwin. And I've also been sitting on the Diversity and Inclusivity Task Force on Tuesday, and that was really, really, really good. It looks like we're about to get off the ground with some different projects and with some different events, and so it's looking really promising. Thank you.
Thank you. I attended a webinar with Alberta Municipalities for the Alberta Provincial Police Service, middle of January, trying to figure out if the move to a provincial police service is in the best interest of Alberta or not. There's a lot of meetings and information coming at us, so it's a lot to go through. Tomorrow, Paul and I are going to Camrose to attend a session with the province. Councillor Eberly was kind enough to attend the National Police Federation's session on why the ERCP should stay in Alberta. I've been reaching out to a number of the regional mayors as well. I've met with Ponokas, Camrose, and Leduc, and we'll continue to do so. We've got a meeting with Millet coming up soon. Myself and Chief Erminskin met with Doug Griffiths in January to present at his leadership camp in April. I'll be speaking to relationship building between the two communities, and Chief Erminskin will be speaking to his experience with residential schools. So that's something to look forward to. I met with David Peckham with the federal government regarding urban Indigenous ministries and funding that might be available for the city of Wetaskiwin. I moderated a workshop on Canada's history and the municipality's role in reconciliation with Alberta municipalities. That was well attended. A couple of regular meetings with our MP, Mike Lake, again, giving us those connections with Hope Mission and the urban Indigenous ministries with the federal government. Sage Beauty grand opening, that was really well attended. Thanks to those members of council that were able to make it to that. Emerging trends in municipal law, that was interesting, and it always is, and it just feels a little bit long throughout the day, but definitely some good takeaways with that. And looking forward to budget deliberations today and Wednesday and thereon after if need be. Thank you. Councilor Lonsdale.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the two budget consultation meetings. Very interesting. Wetaskiwin Area Lodge Authority regular meeting. That was more of a introductory meeting and hopefully getting into meeting face to face from now on, hopefully. Inclusiveness and diversity, the regular meeting went very well. We're starting to get some traction there, working on some specific things. And then I met up with Mike Lake at the homeless shelter. I believe it was last Wednesday there. Went on a little tour and you know, it was good to see him there. And believe me, for me, it was a real eye opener as to how it is run and the respective people that are there for the people that are working there. And you know, of course, I got there early and hung around for a bit, and it was just really good to see. So thank you.
I have nothing to report that hasn't already been reported. Thank you.
My report is attached. The only thing that I will highlight on is the continue to work with Minister Wilson in regards to the water treatment plant. Did receive an email this morning. I will be following up a little bit further to investigate either funding opportunities.
Anything further? Ready for the question? I was in favor.
I'm sorry, mine did not come up.
I've got it defeated for me. Okay. Carried unanimously. We are going to skip past item 8. Move into item 13. Bylaw 2013-22, road closure lane within plan 752-1197, north of lot 43, plan 752-1197, first reading.
Excellent. Hello again, Mr. Mayor and Council. This item is first reading of the road closure bylaw of the plan that you just read out. The last meeting, this land was approved by council to be disposed of. And so, of course, since it's a road right of way, it does need to be closed according to a bylaw. And so this is just first reading of that bylaw. Just a quick report to summarize. This lane was created in 1975 under the plan number 752-1197. Since that time, the surrounding lands have been developed and this laneway has not. Currently, it doesn't serve a transportation purpose and it's very unlikely that it will in the future. Doesn't serve as legal access. The end of the lane was closed in 1998 through bylaws 1412 and 1422-98. So this is essentially just closing that gap and closing the rest of the lane so we can tie that up nicely. The motions are there before you and I'm happy to answer any questions.
First reading motion and then the public hearing.
I move that City Council approve first reading of bylaw 2013-22.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Any discussion? Fine. We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Okay. Counselor Everly and Elliott, are you in favor?
Yep.
Perfect.
I don't know why mine's not coming up. with
That's
it.
okay. It'll get done manually.
I would like to move the public hearing for bylaw 2013 -22 be scheduled for the March 14, 2022 regular council meeting.
Moved by Counselor Nielsen. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 16, new and unfinished business, notice motion, benefit changes for firefighters. Thank you, Andrew.
Good morning, council. Before you, today's report on the notice of motion that was made by council on December 13th in regards to enhancing mental health supports to volunteer paid on-call firefighters. Just for some background, on January 10th, council did direct administration to cover psychologist, psychiatric, or clinical counseling service expenses effective as of January 1st, 2022 for paid on-call Wetaskiwin Fire Service members that are not currently receiving city benefits to a maximum of $1,500 per person per year after they have accessed the Employee Assistance Program. So the report here today is just a response to that motion. I'm going to touch on the current benefits plan for our volunteer paid on-call firefighters. I'm going to speak to an environmental scan of comparable municipalities to provide an overview of what some other municipalities are doing. And then speak to the overview of the permanent benefit that we have coordinated through Sun Life. So to start off with the current benefits plan, currently volunteer paid on-call firefighters have access to our employee and family assistance program that provides short-term counseling services for a variety of issues. We also have access to the volunteer firemen's insurance services, which is an accident and sickness insurance policy provided for all fire department members and provides insurance coverage for death, dismemberment, or specific illness related to fire. We also have the, as approved on January 10th, the 2022 enhanced firefighter benefit. So as I spoke earlier, that's a benefit of $1,500 annually per firefighter after they have accessed their employee assistance program. A further note, the Wetaskiwin Fire Services has 3 dedicated firefighters who have been trained on critical incident stress health management. And the Wetaskiwin Fire Service over the past year has started a chaplain program. All of this culminating to deal with mental health supports for our paid on-call firefighters. So when we look at municipalities across the province, we did reach out to a number of municipalities throughout Alberta. Most notable, the ones that are providing significant, or I would say an additional benefit above and beyond the EAAP is the city of Leduc provides a $500 per year to their volunteer firefighters as part of a healthcare spending account. I provided a bit more information in the report and just a bit more specifics. Of note is they have trained some of their firefighters under the Resilient Minds program out of Vancouver as an additional offering that they're providing their firefighters as well. The town of Banff offers a $250 healthcare spending account that provides support for a variety of health-related services such as mental health. And then when we look across the province, there's nothing more that's that much more significant than what Banff and Leduc are offering. And I've provided an overview of all that information here in the report. So our in consultation with Alberta Municipalities and our Human Resources Department, Alberta Municipalities coordinated a meeting with Sun Life, and we were able to identify a permanent benefit for our municipality. So this benefit would be a health spending account for volunteer paid on-call firefighters. And it can provide, it is available and can provide a more holistic approach to supporting the mental health of our firefighters. So a health spending account would allow the employee to access the supports that meet their needs today, which include mental health services, as well as an array of other medical expenses. Things like the affordability of necessary medical equipment or dental visits for their families does cause financial stress, which also impacts mental health. So this, by providing this health spending account, it provides a little bit more flexibility to the volunteer paid on-call firefighters. So going through the details of what this benefit will look like, the total cost of this would be $49,275. That's assuming 100% utilization of the benefit. And so we are recommending budgeting for 100% utilization for the first year, which would provide an opportunity for our HR department and administration to analyze the data after 1 year to understand utilization habits and better project future years and budget. The benefit would be provided to all volunteer paid on-call firefighters who do not currently have Sun Life benefits with the city. And it would provide a health spending account upwards of $1,500 provided annually to each firefighter that they could use to reimburse a medical, hospital, or dental costs not covered by provincial health insurance or under any other employer-sponsored healthcare program. We do recommend purchasing the health spending account benefit for volunteer paid on-call firefighters if council chooses to maintain the expanded coverage of $1,500 per firefighter. I should note that there is an administrative charge of 9.5%, but that is likely to be less, significantly less than the cost of maintaining this benefit with internal staff. When we asked our human resources department at how much time annually we're estimating that the existing benefit that was approved on January 10th would take to maintain in-house, they came back with 42 hours per year. So in the financial, the implications section provides a bit more of an overview of the specifics. So just to note, again, before I conclude my report, Sun Life does charge a 9.5% utilization on the benefit. We came up with our budget calculation using 30 paid on-call firefighters. Utilizing Sun Life to manage this benefit on behalf of the city will reduce our administration's workload by approximately 42 hours per year. And that is based on 20 minutes to process each claim, which includes human resources, accounts payable, and payroll. And this benefit, again, as noted, would only impact volunteer paid on-call firefighters. Next steps is to continue to maintain the expanded mental health benefit that was approved by council on January 10th. That's in place for the majority of the year. We should note that administration has submitted an operating business case for consideration as part of the 2022 budget that aligns with our recommendations contained within this report. So with that, I can open it to any questions if council has any.
Looking for it. Mr. Mayor, I move that council receive the report entitled Notice of Motion Benefit Challenges for Firefighters dated February 28th as information.
Moved by Kelly or Councillor Elliott, and it's changes, not challenges, although some of us are challenged.
Sorry. So is my vision.
Moved by Councillor Elliott. Any discussion? We have speak option on here.
Oh, shoot.
I don't have it on mine either. We'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through to Paul. Paul, just a couple of questions. Just for information's sake, is the chaplain a paid position or is that a volunteer position?
Through the mayor to Councillor Elliott, my understanding is he's a volunteer paid on call.
Okay. And just further to the benefit package, is this only for a single individual or could they apply it to their family through Sun Life as well?
It's a good question. The existing benefit that was approved on January 10th was for the individual, not for the family. I don't believe that this would include the family, just the individual, but I will want to check with our HR department to make sure I have that right. And if there's any discrepancy, I will email council.
Again, I apologize for not getting that to you
No, that's
sooner.
okay.
I just, when I was reading it again, I just found that question. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything else? We're ready for the question. Those in favor?
Oh,
Carried unanimously. also move 16B to our 1 o'clock. Move on to 16C, which is internal borrowing.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of council. We're bringing forward for council's consideration a housekeeping item which deals with the bylaws from both 2018 and 2020. The purpose of the agenda is for council to consider an internal borrowing relating to these two items. So council provided third and final reading to bylaw number 190818 on June 18th, 2018. This bylaw provided authorization for the financing, undertaking, completion, and assessment of 51st Avenue. In 2018, the city would have intended to borrow the funds required to finance the local improvements from the Alberta Capital Finance Authority once the project was completed. The authority at that time accepted bylaws that were written in the format that the city had, which meant that it included both the local improvement as well as the borrowing component. Regrettably, to date, the local improvements under this bylaw has not, the borrowing, pardon me, has not occurred. And as council is aware, the province of Alberta has taken over the responsibility or the role managed previously by AFCA or the Alberta Capital Financing Authority. And one of the stipulations of the new administration is that the municipality must approve separate local improvement and borrowing bylaws, in which case our bylaw 190818 would not be accepted under the current administration. Although it met it at the time, it does not now. The bylaw 1908 and the local improvement plan stipulates that the total funding attributed to the local improvement was $432,030. There were two components of this. One, there were several properties that the city abutted to the local improvement. So the city would have, is responsible for paying that portion of the local improvement. And that amount related to $66,466.91. So administration is recommending that this amount be funded directly from the infrastructure tax reserve so that we can pay that amount as opposed to borrowing it from ourselves as we're looking at. In addition, the United Church, which also was a benefited property of that local improvement, has requested to pay out their portion of the local improvement, and that payout cost would have been $47,465.97. Reducing the amount of the borrowing, the $432,000, by these two amounts, we would result in a net borrowing of $318,097.09, for which the city will apply local improvement levies to the remaining benefiting properties. The annual local improvement levies will be transferred back to the reserve to replenish the amount of the borrowing. Similarly, with bylaw 1971-20 for the sidewalk and road reconstruction on 49th Avenue from 53rd Street to 52nd Street, it combined both the local improvement and the borrowing components. In this case, the bylaw had provided for borrowing up to $218,400 for local improvements. And as the project was completed, the actual cost of the local improvement attributed to the benefiting properties is $206,673. Administration, again, is recommending that we do an internal borrowing for this amount. The city will levy the relevant local improvement taxes on an annual basis, with the funds obtained through the levies being allocated back to the reserve to replenish the internal borrowing. The way that this would work as well is that at the time that we would have been looking at doing the borrowing, we would have looked at what the rates were from ACFA, and we will actually charge those interest rates on the local improvement levies or included in the local improvement levies, so that essentially though that interest would be applied back to the reserve as well. So that would be the way that we would apply this. So administration has estimated the amount of uncommitted funds in the infrastructure reserve at the end of 2021 will be over 2.3 million. The amount of the internal borrowing Combining both local improvement projects would be 524,770. So the proposed draft 2022 capital budget recommends 84,700 funding from the infrastructure reserve, not including the amount of the infrastructure reserve transfer in the proposed 2022 operating budget. The uncommitted amount of funds in the infrastructure reserve is 2,239,000. Should council approve the direct funding of the local improvements for the city portion, benefiting property owners, as well as the internal borrowing, from the infrastructure reserve, the balance of uncommitted funds in this reserve would be 1.6 million. In summary, approval of the internal borrowing will resolve the outstanding issues with respect to bylaw 1908-18 and 1971-20 and complete the funding of both capital projects. Administration, again, is recommending that the city fund its share of the local improvements outlined in bylaw 1908-18, the 66,000 directly from the infrastructure reserve. And we're recommending that council direct administration to borrow internally from the infrastructure reserve, the 524,000 for the two capital projects, and replenish those funds from the local improvement levies. If there's any further questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I move that city council approve funding of the city's portion of local improvement relating to bylaw 1908-18 in the amount of $66,466.91 to be funded from unrestricted reserve.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley, and you can speak to that.
I would. The reason why I've changed it from infrastructure reserve to unrestricted is that we have discussed and asked administration to bring something forward of what defining exactly what is and what can be spent out of the infrastructure reserve. And we still haven't defined that. And yet we're still wanting to spend some of that money without having something concrete of what exactly fits in the guidelines of what that money should be spent on. This won't be the only thing that I will be discussing this on as far as spending that money. I'd like to have something concrete in place before we start taking money out of there of exactly where the money goes.
Anyone else?
If I could just respond, it's my understanding that the infrastructure tax reserve was intended for funding infrastructure projects, which is the reason why the recommendation was brought forward that this particular project, being an infrastructure project, be funded from that particular reserve.
Yes, but we still, so is infrastructure thermal plastic lines? Is infrastructure fixing up a building? We haven't defined exactly what that infrastructure is. And then until we do, I'm not prepared to support having money put out of there until we define exactly what can be pulled out of there. I'm not saying that this shouldn't be there, but we haven't defined exactly what it is.
So the intention of that infrastructure reserve, to Diana's point, is exactly that, was the infrastructure. Building envelopes were included with that, road, sidewalks, trail connectors. All of the projects that we've been doing so far that have been pulled from that infrastructure reserve is what was included, also including our public works building. So I won't be voting in favor of the unrestricted reserve change to the motion. I fully believe that the funds coming out of this for the work being done on the project is absolutely what that infrastructure reserve is intended for. Anything further?
Sorry, I made a request. Did it not come up?
No, I'm not getting it.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
thank you. Wow. I think the difficulty that I'm having is I'm not going to disagree with Mr. Mayor's comments. But I am extremely concerned that when we talk about infrastructure, we have, and I'm now looking at budget, we have $50 million earmarked for a wastewater treatment plant. We have a report on physical buildings and assets we have in our community that require millions, $20 million worth of work. And we've got on the horizon a ladder truck worth who knows what. When I look at, again, going to budget, and I look at local improvement tax and the roads that are considered for reconstruction, to do those 19 projects would need us to borrow about $8 million to cover the residents' portion for them to pay us back. We're talking close to $100 million worth of infrastructure liability. And I have problems using the infrastructure surcharge as a banking institution when we have all these up to $100 million of other projects on our plate. And I think we need to have a look at all of the liability issues we have and decide how the infrastructure surcharge is going to help address even the bigger picture. I will be supporting this motion.
Councillor Elliott.
I'm not going to open my binder, but how much money is in the unrestricted reserve fund? Sorry, Mr. Chair, through to whomever.
Councillor Billingsley.
We didn't receive the information on reserves prior to today's meeting.
So this is, then I would assume that this wasn't a decision at 10:30 that you were going to change or to have a request for funding like that. So just requesting information from administration beforehand.
No, I have asked for the reserves, and we were told that we could be presenting it today.
Do we have that unrestricted reserves?
Your worship, we are currently still working on the reserves. During 2021, there were multiple or significant motions of council made to fund various projects and sundry from the reserves. And we wanted to ensure that we captured all of them before providing council with the information. I'm hoping to be able to have that information to council within the next day.
So I would like to table that then until we have the information. I'm not going to pull or vote on a motion then, or expect council to vote on a motion without knowing what the budget impact would be, or the financial impact would be. If I can move to make a motion to table something. Whether I can or can't, if council is okay with that, a member of council can move to table that then. Councillor Elliott.
I would so move that we table this item.
Moved by Councillor Elliott. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Opposed? Are you just late to the table?
Yeah.
When it was tabled until we got the information. So Wednesday. See, 17, notice of motion, Councillor Blatz.
Yeah. So I just have a notice of motion for Hope Mission for March 14th. Do I need to do both in one?
No, they'll be separate.
They'll be separate.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for Councillor Blatz to.
To speak to it?
Yeah.
Oh, just with the presentation that we had from Hope Mission today, I just wanted to discuss it further and try and figure out what next steps are for Hope Mission after hearing what they had to say.
Perfect. And the transit fund?
So yeah, also notice of motion for March 14th for the Rural Transit Solutions Fund. There is an FCM grant that came out for rural transit solutions, and they're giving a lot of their grants away to communities that have large Indigenous populations within it, and I wanted to explore that.
Thank you. So those will both be brought back to the March 14th meeting, and you'll work with administration?
Yep.
Okay. I think the notice of motion is just having them come back. We don't need a vote on it. And there was nothing else. So we will recess until 1 p.m. where we will open the public hearing and then move back to item 16B. Thank you.